Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies?
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This is the world's most celebrated crime fighter.
I take a professional interest in crime.
Agatha Christie's brilliant Belgian detective.
Oh, Belgians? I always thought you were French.
Detective Hercule Poirot, murder on the Orient Express.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani with the sleuth himself, David Cohen.
Yes, I'm here today with you, Douglas. I don't know why I did the English accent, but I think for the theme of today's show, it seems appropriate.
Oh, well, and the theme is Agatha Christie is not the theme, but Agatha Christie's movie, and, well, we would say that her seminal work, the Murder on the Orient Express, has been re-released now.
Yes.
That just played the 1974 trailer for that movie, which was a fun.
And we don't have the rights to the new one yet, so we're using that.
and the new one just released, kind of making some money. It's doing okay.
Yes. With
Johnny Depp and a couple others.
A cast of that, a lot of big names in that movie.
Exactly. So, but here's my point. Ever since, and I don't know if you know this or not, Edgar Allan Poe created the form of murder mystery in Murder on the Rue Morgue in 1841. There was no such thing as a murder mystery before then. And we've been enthralled ever since.
We have been enthralled.
Yes, by trying to solve the murder mystery before the hero detective in the book, movie, or TV show, right? You always try to figure it out.
Yep.
This week, with the release of the remake of the release of the remake of the 1974 Agatha Christie classic.
I love when you speak extemporaneously.
I'm going to cut that out, boy. Murder on the Orient Express, CSI, and a number of other mystery shows on TV. The murder mystery is alive and well. Let's see if we can solve the mystery of what is the fascination with and who is the best detective of all time.
Fictional detective.
I guess you could say that, yes. I don't think they think they're fictional, but
true.
That is certainly where we're going with this. Let's just listen to a little bit about the first detective ever and hear what is said about him. And this is from Radio Mystery Theater in 1970s. CBS Radio Mystery Theater was a great radio show back in the day. They did radio plays.
When it comes to sheer mystery, puzzlement, Poe is unsurpassed.
But, Monsieur Dupin, the door was locked from the inside. The windows were locked from the inside. The murder scene, the L'Esplanade apartment, is on the 4th floor. The murderer could not have escaped.
And yet he did, my friend.
But how? Riddles, Monsieur Dupin. You speak in riddles.
Not at all, my friend. You create riddles where riddles do not exist. Had it not been for C. Auguste Dupin, would there have been a Sherlock Holmes?
C. Auguste Dupin is the name of the first detective ever, and he was Sherlock Holmes-like. He looked at these little facts and put together the big picture. You got to get involved with that Murder in the Rue Morgue. Do you know? Have you ever read it? Heard it?
I've never read it.
It's a great mystery.
I've heard about it, but I've never read it.
And he follows Edgar Allan Poe. Laid it out. He said, "Listen." Unlike Agatha Christie, who kind of violates this and sometimes, and a lot of them do this, he says, let your audience know every fact that there is. However you want to present it, you want to just do it in one sentence or do a whole paragraph on it or a whole chapter, but let them know all the facts, let them play along with you. So when you do the reveal, you don't reveal like a motivation or a candlestick or whatever it might be, some element, some clue that wasn't revealed in the work.
I see.
For the audience to play along with you.
Which is a little bit of trickery when you do that, right?
It's horrible. It's horrible. Like you read these books and all of a sudden the last 5 pages, all of a sudden comes out that's because of this clue that was not mentioned.
He secretly, without knowledge of anyone in the room.
It's horrible.
Exactly.
Now, if you ever watch This is a real obscure show. It was only on for 1 year with Jim Hutton, who is the father of Tim Hutton. Anyway, forgetting that, the bottom line is...
I didn't know Tim Hutton had a father. That's interesting.
He unfortunately passed away early in life, but in 1975, there was a show called Ellery Queen, which followed up on all the Ellery Queen. There were a lot of books, there were novels, there were other TV shows. But this one, he would turn to the audience and he would say, you've been given all the clues visually and, through the play.
Broken the fourth wall. Then.
Yes, and he would say, do you know who got involved with this? Who was the murderer? I do. Here's a little piece of jargon.
The man in this portrait is dead. Who killed him? Was it his bereaved widow?
Welcome to the hour of disenchantment, Mr. Queen.
The family doctor?
He had about 4 months to live.
The business partner?
Well, that rules me out because I was in Albany at the time.
The mysterious priest?
Inspector, I am not going to reveal to you what passed between us.
The Oriental visitor?
Which leads you to suspect that a Chinese committed the crime.
Or was it someone else? Match wits with Ellery Queen and see if you can guess who done it.
Now remember that took place in the 40s, so there wasn't political.
The Oriental. It was the Oriental. It was a Chinese.
It wasn't as politically incorrect. The world's changed. You have to look at that in another show.
Crazy.
But anyway, that was just the setup, the typical setup.
Right.
And the typical ending, he would gather all the suspects together
in the room.
and he would describe what happened and how. Check the show out. It's on YouTube. It's very cool. There's only about 29 episodes, something like that. The same creators as Columbo.
Are there any other nationalities they insult on the show? Or are they just stuck with the Chinese?
They insulted everybody.
The Oriental.
The Oriental. Now, I just can't I'm going back to the idea that we're trying to find out what is the best detective of all time, but I keep going back to the idea that I think the answer is pretty obvious, no? We already mentioned Sherlock Holmes,
I would imagine.
I don't think anyone is going to defeat Sherlock Holmes in the minds.
How about Encyclopedia Brown?
Yeah, cheap ripoff of Sherlock Holmes, right? I don't know. So I know we've mastered this ability to go back in time and send back our iPhone to, if you heard in the past, we've done this a couple of times, to Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Yeah, the world really doesn't know that we discovered this ability to time travel and send inanimate objects back to specific people, namely Sherlock Holmes.
I'm glad you said inanimate
Watson.
objects. Exactly. That's what we could. Only the inanimate objects.
We haven't perfected the transmittal of human forms. Right.
So let's send back the iPhone with a bunch of works of art. In other words, literature of the day that are the detective stories. Let's send back TV shows, movies, and ask Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson to make the determinations of who is the best detective of all time after them. So in other words, their predecessor. Who would they select as...
Not their predecessor, the people that came after them.
Successor, sorry.
Whom they would not have known without your iPhone.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're saying it's my iPhone, but it's both of our iPhones. It's everything old is new again. We don't have to...
It's the company iPhone?
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
So let's send that back. The next thing you hear will be Holmes and Watson, and we're going to leave it to them to try to come up with the conclusions. Who's the best detective of all time?
I say there, Holmes, I've purchased this brilliant new scotch. I was hoping you would partake in some of it.
I never turned down a vile scotch.
Try this. Tell me what you think.
It's got a nice airy quality to
Doesn't it?
I really enjoy it.
Yes, I'm glad you do.
Hey, what's that business? What are we going to do all day?
Well, we
have drink. We ran up that bar tab. You remember that bar tab?
Oh, yes. We got into severe trouble for that. Well, my good friend, we do have several hours left in lieu of getting completely obliterated. Why don't we check that box? You know the box that I'm talking about, Holmes? The one that Douglas and David send us periodically. Let's see if there's anything inside. Would you, my good friend, go over there and fetch the box?
Oh, I'm glad that Doctor, I've ministered for so many years. I get to get up off this couch. It's a very lovely couch, very comfortable. And I get to go and grab this device.
I'm sorry, Holmes. There I am doing it to you again, treating you like an assistant when you're You're at least an equal.
Why in the world do I have to go grab this device off the mantelpiece and you get to say, what degrees do you have to after your name?
No, I have no degrees, my good.
You get lucky every so often in a couple of cases. I'm writing down all these stories and sort of presenting them to this gentleman to present to the world, and you get to just simply move your mouth.
My dear Watson, your complaint has been duly noted.
Here it is. I've got it for you in the meantime.
Thank you. Is there anything inside the box?
Yes, there's a little... it looks like they want us... a little note. They want us to find out who's the best detective of all time after, of course, yours truly.
So, I'm deducing here that you do see I believe they call it the iPhone in the box?
The iPhone is in the box, and we need to come up with a...
That was a pertinent fact you skipped over. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
We're running out of time.
Which is, again, why apparently I tell you what to do.
I guess what we're going to do is we're going to skip over the clip that we had planned to play for this segment of the show, and we're going to do that the next segment right after this on Everything Else. So again, Holmes and Watson will try to get back together as one unit and determine who is the best detective of all time.
I love it when you break that fourth wall for no apparent reason.
I just don't understand why there's a script here. Nobody reads the script. They just go right beyond it. We're going to have a tough time getting through all of them now since we've got an extra clip for next section. We'll be back. Everything Else.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Gee, Pop, I'll bet the chauffeur did it. Gee, Pop, we've got it. This proves the flowers were in Madame Borelli's dressing room. Gee, Pop, it's what the French newspapers call a crime passionnel. The woman was probably this man's wife or his sweetheart. She had the chauffeur drive him out here to a lonely spot. Between them, they murdered him and got away together.
Please stop deductions.
That seems to be Charlie Chan. We're back here on Everything Old is New Again with Sherlock Holmes.
I'm not sure what you're speaking about.
Every time I grab this device...
You sort of become a host of some show.
Yes, it's so infused with the entertainment bug.
Such a mystery.
It really is.
Well, so let's summarize here, just
Please
between you and I, because there is...
As quickly as possible.
No one else in the room. Right. So, Watson, what we're looking for, apparently, is who would be the heir apparent to yours truly as the greatest detective post the Sherlock Holmes era.
Exactly. We just heard Charlie Chan, his son, his number one son. And listen, as far as I'm concerned, Charlie Chan's a pretty intelligent guy. He grew up in the books in 1912 in something called Honolulu. He was a Honolulu detective.
What happened to your British accent, Watson? It seems to have been disappeared as you're morphing into this radio show host. But let me say this. I can deduce just by hearing a few simple words uttered by Mr. Chan that he's in the running, but I'm not quite sure he is the one.
And he's got that number one son.
Just because he says he's a number one son, not necessarily number one in my book.
Okay, so very intelligent, very smart.
Of course.
All right, number two, let's try with it. Inspector Clouseau. Sounds like a Frenchman. Inspector Clouseau. Pink Panther.
What is your name?
I'm Shock, the gardener.
And what is it you do?
I'm the gardener.
And why didn't you say that to me in the first place?
I did.
Look, don't try to be funny with me, monsieur. This is a very serious matter, and everyone in this room is under the suspicion. What was your name?
Shock.
The cook.
Gardener.
Ah! Now we are getting somewhere.
Holmes, what do you think of this gentleman? He's a little bit lost.
Yes, and it strikes me as more of a parody more than an actual detective from what I can deduce. What do you think, Watson?
I would suggest that this gentleman has got some problems. He's got some deductive problems. I don't think he's even wearing the right shoes and the right feet, quite frankly. He seems to be a little bit of a difficult soul. He wants to be a detective, but he's really not.
It also sounds like the French accent is completely faked.
Interesting.
It's sort of over the top, I believe they are going to call it 100 years from now.
Let's move along. I don't think that's going to be...
I agree.
Let's take a look at somebody called A Big Sleep with Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe. This gentleman.
There's the British accent coming back. That's good to hear, Watson.
It's raining pretty hard.
I got my car. Yeah, that's right, it is, isn't it? You know, it just happened. I had a bottle of pretty good rye in my pocket. I'd a lot rather get wet in here.
Well, looks like we're closed for the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, this gentleman seems to be quite a ladies' man.
Was that called The Big Sleep?
That's the big sleep.
Because I fell asleep halfway through the dialogue.
So you're not very excited. There's a rainstorm outside, and this gentleman is coming in from the rain, and he's acquiring, what would you say, the attention of this very fetching young lady who closes the bookstore so they can have imbibe upon a little scotch or something. What do you say? Rye. He had some rye in his pocket.
Well, among other things, she did sound quite fetching. You're right.
Oh, she's terrific.
It sounds to me like more of a romance story than a detective story.
I have to say, she's quite fetching. I'm a little taken aback. I kind of like to stay right on this. Can we listen to it? Can I watch this again?
Oh, perhaps maybe on the iPhone there's a way to watch movies, as they call them.
Oh, that's impossible. How could you watch something?
It's going to be invented at some point. Maybe we'll see it on the iPhone.
There's no way, a possibility. It's impossible to watch something.
Put your glass of Scotch down for a moment, Watson, will you? And let's go to the next.
The next clip is something where Mike Hammer, Darren McGavin's playing Mickey Spillane's the author, playing this Mike. What's Mike Hammer?
Mike Hammer.
Now, what was all this jazz you handed Rita about busting my alibi?
Rita closes up shop at the diner at 7 o'clock. Now, you told the cops that you had dinner there between the hours of 9 and 9:30 the night that pawnbroker was robbed and killed. You really think the cops are going to believe that Rita, her cook, and her dishwasher stayed 2 hours after closing time just to feed you?
Well, they just happened to be open late that night.
The very night that you needed an alibi, huh? How convenient.
A very lively individual. He's got a lot of verve and vigor, vim and vigor. What do you think it is, this Mike Hammer?
Well, other than the reference to something called jazz, which I don't understand, he sounds pretty impressive to me, Watson. I must say.
So like a film noir kind of a guy. I don't know. Understand
what is film noir?
It just seems overcoming me. These phrases,
Watson?
I've had a bit of scotch.
Watson, have you been sneaking the iPhone out of the box and doing some Googling, as they believe they call it?
I have to say that I am a gentleman of advanced years. I have got degrees after my name. And if I feel like taking a look at the device, I can look at the device.
Oh, I don't mean to scold you, Watson. I just wanted to make sure we're staying on track.
Once again, the equality and the inequality between yourself and myself, your press is really getting to your head, I have to tell you this. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, it's enough with him to developing these stories and presenting them to everywhere you go. You're looking for autograph. By the way, why don't you give somebody an autograph? Why? What's the matter with giving an autograph?
Why don't I give?
You're averse to the autograph.
I'm averse to giving my autograph, Watson, because I need to be paid for the autograph. I feel that that's sort of a groundbreaking trend I'm going to be setting.
This might be a very good.
But let's go on to the next.
Well, I'll tell you, the only problem I have is I've taken a look at this device, and this gentleman, this Mike Hammer, he sounds like the same individual as the dad in something called Gene Shepard's Christmas Story.
How do you mean?
Fragile. That must be Italian.
Well, I think that says fragile, honey.
Oh, yeah.
Would you look at that? What is this?
Wait, it's a leg. Do you know what this is?
This is a lamp.
What a great lamp.
Well, he's making further deductions. I can give him that, but he's a little lighthearted, don't you think?
A little lighthearted, but by Joe, Watson, that's spot on. That is the same actor.
The same... now I'm confused.
Same detective.
It's the same detective, yes, the gentleman.
I'm saying actor because if he is a detective in one spot and in the other spot he's playing some other character, I can only deduce that he is not a detective, but in fact an actor.
Well, he may be a master of disguise, which is, of course, what you're known for. He's disguising himself.
Excellent point.
He wanted to find out what was that fragile? What was in that fragile box? And he found out it was a lamp, shaped like a leg.
Yes.
By the way, I've seen that. It's attractive as well. Not as attractive as a young fetching lady in the big sleep, but it's an attractive lamp.
Watson, we need to restrict your time on the iPhone. It's detracting from our mission here.
I can't help it. The lamp is very attractive lamp. I've never seen such a lamp. All right, let's move on. The Maltese Falcon with a Sam Spade. Is this a gentleman? Would you?
Maltese Falcon?
Let's see what.
Would you have done this to me if the Falcon had been real and you'd got your money?
Don't be too sure I'm as crooked as I'm supposed to be. That sort of reputation might be good business. Hello, Tom. Got him?
Got him.
Swell.
Here's another one for you. She killed Miles. Oh, and I've got some exhibits. The boy's guns, one of Cairo's, and a $1,000 bill I was supposed to be bribed with. And this black statuette here that all the fuss was about.
What is it?
The, stuff that dreams are made of.
Well, he can turn a phrase, that's for sure. This Sam Spade can turn a phrase.
But he also sounds like a voice we've heard before, as a different detective.
Oh, no, Holmes, I don't recognize him.
Okay, I could be wrong there,
well,
but...
I mean, you're the detective. Which fellow do you...
he sounds a little bit like, I believe it was the Philip Marlowe character.
The gentleman with the fetching woman in the bookstore.
The one that you were fascinated with.
I have to tell you, she's...
She's what? Maybe, perhaps if you shared that iPhone with me, I could observe her as well.
That's right. She takes her. He's got her hair up, and then when this gentleman, Philip Marlowe, speaks to her, she turns her back to him, and she lets her hair down. And takes off the glasses, the reading glass. She's really a very attractive...
Well, again, we digress here, Watson. I believe we should stay on the trail. But I shall partake in watching such moving images with you later.
I tell you what, the Maltese Falcon is a piece of work. You're a piece of work. We got a few seconds left here to discuss these things. Is there anybody from
is this for the, what you were talking about?
No, we're still on the radio.
Okay.
Still on the radio. We're just extending a little time because it's very hard to time travel. And so the boys are extending us another minute.
I see. Okay.
Charlie Chan.
Charlie Chan, right. That was one of them.
Inspector Clouseau.
He was the Chinese, wasn't he?
Yes. Philip Marlowe, you got the Mickey Spillane's, Mike Hammer, you got this Sam Spade. Any of these gentlemen would seem to be someone that you would be interested in saying could be your successor.
You know, they're all good in their own way, but I don't believe I've found that person yet who could write for
what are you looking for, Holmes? I know you're looking for somebody who would probably want to kiss your feet. That's the way you treat me.
Well, that would be part of it, yes.
Yeah.
Well, someone that could match my detective ability, my wit,
Back when if there's something all to do again, figure out what Holmes is thinking and evaluating. He's getting the time of day.
Let's get you away from that volume button, Watson.
Let me all do again.
Why do you keep muttering that?
Because it's true.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Tonight, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew meet Dracula.
The Hardy Boys are just back on. Hey, listen, Everything Old is New Again is back on the air. I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a try. This is Dr. Watson bringing to you the evaluation, the determination from Sherlock Holmes himself as to who would be his successor in the world of detective agencies.
That was very well done, Watson. It's almost like you're in your own mind. You're conducting your own, what do they call it, the radio show that's going to be invented in the future? Is that what you're doing?
Well, we're investigating for this Everything Old is New Again, if you remember.
Right.
The device that you made me get up and go get from the fireplace, because you were, by the way, you were sitting right next to the fireplace. I had to go get it, and this device, the instructions are for us to determine, and specifically you, who is the best detective of all time, and then they will be airing that in the future. So, if you have anything
so you're helping them with the introductions and all that sort of thing.
And if you have anything to say to the future listeners of America, what does Sherlock Holmes have to say to the future listeners, the people that are listening to this program in the year 2017?
I'd like to say I'm Sherlock Holmes, that I am
that ego again.
Real flesh and blood with my assistant Watson, my co-partner. What do I call you? I don't know what the vernacular will be. My life partner? Is that no?
That's a little over the top.
Life partner.
I'm a married man.
I'm just trying to think of a.
You got a problem. You got serious problems with it. That ego's got to be put into check. You got serious problems.
Well, I can't help that, Watson. You know that.
Have another scotch.
I think I've earned the ego. By the way, this scotch bottle is. There's still a quarter of it left, and I believe you and I need to finish.
All right, let's finish that up while we listen to this.
So these are more like children's sort of detectives?
Today we're going to talk about, that's right, Hardy Boys with a gentleman by the name of Dixon. There's the gentleman that...
What's the name again?
Wrote these Hardy Boy volumes.
Dixon?
Yes, I'm going to try to find his name. They're trying to... But as far as I'm concerned, it's Dixon's the last name I can tell you.
There's no need. It's not important. I believe it's a detective who we're we're really concerned with.
Well, there's a Franklin W. Dixon. Pen name for different gentlemen.
Oh, that's so helpful. It's so helpful, Watson. Let's cut to the chase.
So you're not interested in the Hardy Boys? It's not something...
Play your clip, Watson.
Let's try Scooby Doo.
Now what did you see? You're not.
Wait a minute.
Where? There. Nothing. Well, what do you think you saw? I'm not. Ooh. I'm not. Ooh. I'm not.
That was an owl, Scooby. Don Knotts in a place like this? Never. Maybe a vampire or a werewolf.
Let's go. And quit looking back, Scoob.
There's Scooby Doo, and have a guest star of Don Knotts, we've seen him before. He's a very well-respected comedian back in the day. What's he involved with werewolves and Scooby Doo? What kind of business is all this going on? I'm very confused.
What I can say is that if Scooby Doo lowered his voice register a few octaves, he would sound exactly like you, Watson.
Oh,
go on, try doing Scooby Doo.
What does he say? I see Don Knotts.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll have some work in the future.
I believe you're the future voice of Scooby Doo.
I was Sherlock Holmes with less of an ego. Less of an ego.
Oh, so Scooby Doo is the detective? I'm not sure I
think there's a gentleman, there's a reveal here. There's Shaggy, there's a Fred, a Daphne, a Velma. They're called
the kids.
The kids, they call themselves Monsters, Inc. Let's see what they seem to be able to hold their own with respect to solving crime.
Nice catch, guys.
So it really was Dr. Jekyll behind the ghost of high jewel robberies.
It sure was, Sheriff. And when he figured he might be caught, he came up with the idea of framing Helga the maid. Except that Shaggy found the suction cups, which turned out to be the real clue.
Dr. Jekyll had to use the suction cups to scale the buildings. If Helga was really the ghost of Hyde, she wouldn't have needed them because she was an ex-circus star.
They seem to be using powers of deduction, but what is this supernatural business? They're all involved with the supernatural.
Well, I believe, Holmes, that's the afterlife. It's the possibility of specters, traveling among us. You and I have discussed, usually when I read you stories at bedtime. But listen. The point
Sounds like we're talking about Arthur Conan Doyle, these seances. He's involved with these seances. He got
the occult, right?
He's got his buddy Houdini very upset with him about all that. If you're familiar with that situation, I don't know why you're talking about.
My point, though, Watson, is that. I'm
just trying to show that I have a connection with the 19th century.
I completely forgot my point now. I believe the Scots.
This is the genius, the big man himself, Sherlock Holmes. I can't remember his point.
Do I detect a note of anger or frustration now?
Do me a favor. How about you get me another drink? Maybe that'll solve the problem.
Here you go. Sure, I'd love to. Here you are, mate.
Might have gotten away with it, too. If it wasn't for these blasted kids and their dogs. Blasted meddling kids. And it would have been mine if it hadn't been for those meddling kids.
And I would have made millions if it hadn't been for you meddling kids.
Watson, it doesn't sound like much of an ethnically diverse group of kids we're talking about here, solving these mysteries. So, for that reason, I would say, as a whole, probably not up.
Well, I'll tell you, they're very open-minded with the Scooby Doo. There's quite a diversity there between species.
I believe species, yes. Scooby Doo is probably the star, I would say, of the group. And to infer that a canine has the intellectual abilities on par with yours truly, I believe would be a great insult.
Understood. Even though they are meddling kids, just like you're meddling into things you shouldn't be involved with when you talk about the occult and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his seances. I mean, we should just stay away from that topic.
I agree with
it. It does not lend. Next, before you know, we'll be talking to a dentist, and we'll be talking about UFOs and do they exist? And it's the next step from this.
It's preposterous, quite preposterous. Now, what else do you have?
Hello. I'm Dr.
Here we go.
It's nice to meet you. May I ask who you are?
Guess.
All right. I'm guessing you two are working with Lawrence McNabb, the locksmith, that he gives you the keys and you're responsible for
shut this off. It's so... What is that?
Well, you wanted diversity. There's a young lady, and she's quite the detective.
There's no context there. She could be talking about anything.
Well, her name is Nancy Drew, and she's also a contemporary of the Hardy Boys. They had a TV series back in the day. Plus, they have quite a number of novels for young adults to read. It's very thought-provoking.
Well, I think the problem here, Watson, is that Douglas and David did not provide sufficient enough clip to allow me to make any kind of deduction about Miss Drew.
Well, I would say to you that Edward Stratmeyer is the gentleman that created this Nancy Drew. And again, a number of individuals under the pseudonym of Carol Keene is the individual that wrote most of these books back in the 70s, and quite interesting. But you don't think that she's going to be the one that succeeds you, is that correct?
I think that is correct. By the way, I'm enjoying your Long Island accent that you have apparently slipped into. Quite enjoying.
You have me very self-conscious now. The English.
Oh, that was my point. It's amusing. So, look. Let's put a pin in Nancy Drew. I don't have enough evidence, so let's hold that thought for now and move on to the next contestant.
Well, I'll tell you, at this point in time, we need to discuss and evaluate what we have seen to date.
Okay.
And there's not a lot that I'm seeing that you're very dismissal of these individuals. Are you thinking that Douglas and David did not provide you with enough material to make your proper evaluation? You have some kind of something up, you got a problem with these two gentlemen?
No, I don't have a problem with the gentleman per se. I'm just saying that, for instance, for Nancy Drew, the tape recording was not enough for me to reach a conclusion.
I see. So you.
But others, I believe others, there was sufficient evidence.
If you actually take a look at the materials, there's additional files. They call them files that you can look. You can actually see the episodes of the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew mystery.
So there's more to it than what you're playing for me right now.
She's not as fetching as that young lady in The Big Sleep. Gotta tell you, she's got my attraction.
You know what you and I need, Watson? We need to go out on a date. Not you and I together, of course.
But chilling up my spine there.
With women, Watson, with women. You and I double dating.
From what I understand, if we continue to do this show, we will be shunned by every woman that you know and never see.
Perhaps. I can arrange for that, though. If you're up for it, I think two single men...
I'm up for this one. It's the Big Sleep. We're back right at this. Let me do this again.
I will see if Miss Bacall...
It's not Miss Bacall. It's another young lady. Watch the movie The Bookstore. Bacall didn't age too well. This one, it's a piece of work, I gotta tell you. Especially with the glasses. Oh, boy.
Come on, Scooby Doo. I see you. Pretending you got a sliver.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That's a theme to something called a Cold Shack, a show from the 1970s. It's detective time. We're here with the great Sherlock Holmes having an imbibing of a little scotch. We're trying to figure out who is the greatest detective of all time, besides Sherlock Holmes, of course.
I'm still getting used to your doing this radio show host thing. It's so unnerving how you begin to speak like there's other people here.
I would like to tell you that there are other people. There's people in my head. A lot of things going on. You ever have that? You think about things, and there's another voice there. And it's very difficult. You start drinking. I get 3 or 4 more voices.
Now it makes sense. Yes.
Pass the scotch, will you please?
Hey, okay. Here we go. All right. Now, so what's next on the? By the way, the scotch bottle is completely empty. I'm going to have to ask you to get another one.
I have to get up again.
Oh, no, here's one. Sorry. Oh, forgive me.
I've got to go up again.
I have one under the table.
After my name.
Here we go. Actually, my old friend, I'm going to pour you some right here. There you go.
Figure out how to use this iPhone.
Okay, so let's have the next contestant on Pick My Successor.
I guide you through all of these times, and I got to go get everything.
Remember the penny arcades that used to be so much fun when you were a kid? Perhaps a handful of coins, you could test your strength, your skill at a pinball machine. Those arcades were a lot of things to a lot of kids. But there was one particular arcade that represented something special for me. It was here that began one of the most terrifying experiences of my life.
I want to have a terrifying experience. Spend an afternoon with Sherlock Holmes and he's drinking. That's a terrifying experience.
Watson, come now. Am I that much of a monster?
Don't you remember the difficulties you got me into last year? That was really... I don't want to bring that up again. The bar, the best of show as you did for everything old is new again.
Oh, there you go again, bringing that up again.
All right,
can't you
this
just
Coal Shack individual? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm glad I did. The Coal Shack individual. He's a
Kolchak. He's another detective.
He's very much like this Scooby Doo with the supernatural. So a take with the supernatural. Do you have any interest in discussing? I'm losing my way because the scotch is getting to my... listen, all I can say is this gentleman, he's a master of disguise.
You know what, Watson, you need to enunciate better because this is all I'm hearing over here. I just can't...
You sound like the Scooby Doo, is that...
Watson, listen... You need to enunciate more clearly so I can follow along. You're drinking too much and I can't decipher.
I'm going to see if this Coal Shack can do it for me.
The shipping line would only admit to having had a psychotic stowaway on board. The killer had fallen overboard after being cornered by ship's officers, so they said. All traces of Bernard Steiglitz vanished, and any attempt to publish a werewolf story about such a man would be met with the heaviest legal artillery. So here the story sits, for good, I guess. No one but you and I know the real truth, the real story.
Tell me something, Holmes. Can you deduct anything from that voice at this point in time?
Well,
let's see your powers of deduction.
Are you going to let me get a word in there?
I'd like to hear it. I really.
My thinking on this is that he's breaking the fourth wall, right? Because he's talking to I'm sorry, I'm a bit inebriated, but my mind is clear.
Even Sherlock Holmes, the great Sherlock Holmes, is inebriated, is head and shoulders above Scooby Doo. I got to give you that.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Yes, Kolchak is an interesting fellow. I could tell by his voice that he's fairly intelligent, highly intelligent, in fact. Now, you were going to mention something about some devices that he uses, I believe.
Yes, take a look. He has an interesting, he uses up-to-date, he's the latest in technology. He has a tape recorder.
Tape recorder?
And an Instamatic camera taking pictures that can be developed in another time.
Do you mean he can replicate voices that he just heard and also images of what he's just seen?
Absolutely. Take them home and evaluate them and consider them as privacy and so on.
I would think for that reason alone, he's the front runner.
He's also a master of disguise. He seems to have been the same guy that did Mike Hammer, and he was the dad for the Christmas Story, and now he's this Coal Shack.
Further supporting the hypothesis. Good job, Watson.
Thank you. One more individual to look at. I need you to consider this gentleman seriously, and let's have a discussion.
My name is Columbo, ma'am. I'm a lieutenant from the police.
They've got someone on it. Lieutenant Columbo. I'm sure you'll be talking to him. He's very official.
What makes you think her murder was premeditated? Usual thing, sir. Little facts that plain don't fit, you know, sir. Anything I hate is one of those little facts. Doesn't ever seem to matter how small it is either, sir. Could be this big. Oh, no, I'm not hounding anybody. Oh, no. No, what I'm trying to do is get to the bottom of this thing. When I planted that seed about searching for the thermos bottle, I called the Rangers and the Boy Scouts. I knew it was going to worry you and you'd come out here and look for the parachute. Then I knew. The problem was why you did it. Your father loves his son. You did it to protect your boy.
All right, Lieutenant. You win.
Columbo, a couple of clips of Columbo, Lieutenant Columbo.
Lieutenant Columbo?
Do you have any respect for this gentleman?
I do, and I'll tell you why. He seems to be a very understated type of fellow. What I like about him is that he comes off as a bit of an oaf, but it's an act, you see. And he's trying to lead you to believe that he's on some cold trail, when in fact he's already come to the conclusion, correct conclusion I might add, as to who done it.
You've coined another phrase there, the who done it. Is that Sherlock Holmes? He's a genius.
Because I'm a bit inebriated.
You're a genius.
It was not the correct grammar.
What
did I say?
Let me tell you, you're a genius.
Not often enough. Thank you.
You're a genius.
So what did I say? Whodunit?
I don't know what the whodunit means. It just sounds.
I like that.
It sounds like a nice topic to talk about it. Everything all is new again.
Yes, I believe so.
So this gentleman, he interviewed. It looks like Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk seem to be on that clip. Have you heard this?
Oh, is that from that show that Douglas is so high on, some space fantasy
Star Trek.
Star Trek, right?
TOS, the original show. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see they've made duplicates.
Many. Now,
after
you had Leonard Nimoy, you had William Shatner.
Right.
They've all been put into jail by this Columbo.
I see. So the actors who played...
Everybody's in jail. I don't know actors or not. I don't know what you mean. To me, it's all real.
It's not Mr. Spock they've put in there.
It's all... That's
in jail.
Yeah.
Right? It's the actor who's playing there.
Well, now you have me on a whole nother plane. I'm a little confused now. I guess it might be the alcohol. I thought these were real gentlemen, real people, and now all of a sudden...
But think about it, Watson. They're in space one moment, and they're helping Detective Columbo the other moment.
I got to tell you, I'm very confused. But I'll tell you who's not confused. There's Columbo in the video. Columbo. Did you hear the end there where they were searching for the parachute? Did you ever see this episode?
Yes, and he deduced, rightfully so, that this fellow would come
Johnny
out...
Cash himself, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Johnny Cash.
Yes.
I don't know who that is, but this fellow would come out. He's sort of smoked him out, if you will.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed. And you know,
brilliant.
And how he knew. Listen, if you remember this episode, Johnny Cash was going.
I remember the episode. I've never seen the episode.
Well, that's your problem. I did all the investigation. You did all the groundwork, and you take the credit. But as usual. Listen, if you take a look at the episode, you'll see he's on a plane, and this gentleman, Johnny Cash, he's ready to take off into the high wild blue yonder, the plane. And he goes for the metal detector, and I'll tell you what's happening. With the metal detector, he takes out these keys from Hertz Rent-A-Car, and he puts them in there, and then they go to, and then gets on the plane, and Columbo says to himself, why would a gentleman keep keys to a rental car if he's going on tour? He knew he was coming back. He said, this gentleman's coming back. And that's how he got him. This is the details. I've learned it from you. The details. It's all in the devil's in the details.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes, he is. Well, are there any more examples, or is that's the universe?
I think we've done quite a bit here.
From what I need to select now.
Correct. Now you need to select, please.
Okay.
We have like a minute and a half here.
Well, I think, Watson, I've sort of shown my hand. I believe Detective Columbo would be my rightful successor.
Your heir apparent, if you will.
Yes.
That's a nice way to phrase it. I do phrase a nice phrase every now and again. Don't need credit for it whatsoever, but...
we're going to go with apparent successor, but good try. Anyway, so from here, Holmes...
No surprise there.
From here, Holmes, what do we do now? Do we take the iPhone and... Put it back
in the box and give it back to these guys. Let them air
So
this.
you will do that.
They air it on their affiliate network of stations across the nation. And listen, if you're interested in the program, why don't you write to your local talk radio station and tell them you'd like them to carry everything else new again?
You're doing an advertisement for their show?
They're good guys. I have us on the air.
Are you trying to... I see what's happening here, Watson, and I don't like it one bit. You're hoping that Douglas and David will someday soon be able to transport not just inanimate objects, but actual human flesh, and they would transport you into their time period so you no longer have to work for yours truly. Is that true?
Someone has to stand up and say, you know what, that Dr. Watson's not so bad a guy.
Well, I'm saying it right here. You're not so bad, and I don't want to lose you, Watson.
I'm glad. Happy to hear
command you to stay with me.
I will. I have no choice. We'll see what happens next week. Everything goes.
I'll take no choice. Good enough.
The thing to Columbo on the way out. Dr. Watson,
Everything Old is New Again. You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.